Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Psychology Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest today here. I hope I'm not butchering your name. It is Arthur Carmazzi.
Well, yeah, it's close enough. It's Carmazzi if you want to say it in the Italian way, or if you want to say the American style, you go Carmazzi.
Amazing, amazing. I hope you help me moving forward with this. As a German, we are not particularly known for our pronunciational skills.
Well,
You know?
this sounds good enough.
Amazing. So, it's very hard to summarize your credentials, but from what I can tell, it's like you're the world-leading expert in organizational culture, founder of Directive Communication Psychology, best-selling author of 13 books, and the founder of Global Mentor Exchange, an AI-powered metaverse company. How would you say, if people ask you what you do, what do you usually say to them? Because I feel it's always...
Oh, I usually say I write and I talk. That's what I say, because it's simple, and they say what, and that gives you an opportunity to expand if they actually are interested, or if they were just saying that just to be friendly.
Yeah. For me, it is a very special honor to have you here to give people who watch this episode for the first time on this podcast. I find people such as Arthur who are very successful and who spike my sense of admiration. And I try to figure out what they do differently, what is different about their journeys that led them to produce these kind of outcomes so that normal people like me and maybe like you, maybe not so much like you, can figure out and emulate their success patterns and go on our own journey of behavior ennoblement, so to say. So this is the topic for today. It's you. First question I have is, where did it all begin? In regards to your upbringing, like if you put maybe like a name on the first epoch of your life, what would the title be? And what's the first story you maybe would like to share about that?
Wow. Well, first of all, I grew up in a small town in Carson. It was called Carson City in Nevada. Now, I'm kind of old, right? So back then, there was like 10,000 people and 20,000 cows. Okay? So as I was growing up, first of all, I mean, I came from nothing. There was no, my parents didn't have money. My mom cleaned houses to kind of help make ends meet. And my dad was working for the National Guard, which is kind of the civilian army kind of thing. And he fixed cars for them. Okay. And so, I mean, we would go out to the laundromat to actually clean clothes. And a lot of my clothes growing up were also secondhand. So we'd go to the thrift store because, but there was cool stuff. This is where I kind of maybe gained my appreciation for antiques. I guess I don't know, but there was all kinds of really cool stuff that you could see from different times and everything else. It's like, wow, that's so cool. And but as I was growing up, though, see, I always wanted to be more. But, I was kind of a weird kid, right? And so I would get bullied a lot because I was weird. I was different than the other kids and stuff. And so when I was young, that was a superpower, because when I was really young, it was okay because being different was nobody really did anything. But then as you get older, then people start kind of like going, and so then it got to the point of where school was definitely not fun for me. I was a nerd, and I was a little weird, and I didn't really fit into the normal element of society. Mm-hmm. Plus, there was a whole bunch of other stuff, like the fact that I couldn't. So one of the things that I was academically challenged.
Academically challenged.
Yeah. Well, basically, okay. So when I was in school, they would always have this. They have these standards, right? And they would teach you how to do math, right? So you got to do math, and you have to do reading and all of these things. Well, first of all, my reading and my math and everything was not up to the standard. And so one day, my teachers called my parents, and they said, "Mr. and Mrs. Carmazzi, your son Arthur is special." Okay, that's code word for stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, and we would like to put him in a special kids class, okay, the stupid kids class, right? So there I went. I went on to the special kids class, and there was part of the upbringing thing. Something very interesting that happened. First of all, I'm the kind of person that likes attention, in case you haven't noticed. But what happened was that the teacher, Mrs. Kelly, was the sweetest lady. She would give me more attention as I appeared to be more stupid. So I literally learned to pretend to be stupid just to get more attention, because that was something that actually was working for me, right? And so then what happened was after a while, the school changed the rules, and they said, well, before you can go to high school, you have to have an algebra class. And I'm like, what? Isn't that like math for smart kids? I can't do that. And so what happened was I went to this algebra class, and my very first report card, you know what I got?
Tell me.
You sure you don't want to guess? I got an F. Okay, because I was a stupid kid, right? I mean, I was like, and nobody was surprised. My parents weren't surprised. Nobody was surprised. Okay, but my teacher at that time, Mr. Backus, he had this really shiny bald head.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of, he always wore this corduroy coat. I don't know if it was the same one or if he had lots of them, but he came up and he said, Arthur, would you like some extra credit? Like, well, yeah. So he says, well, here's the thing. Okay? I think that, maybe we're just kind of approaching this wrong. So I'm going to write a simple thing on the board, and I want you to solve it. Okay, and so he wrote a simple thing on the board, and then I went to solve it and try to write the stuff, because they make you show your work, and all this stuff. He says, no, don't write your work. Just tell me what you think the answer is. I said, it's this. He says, well, that's right. And I go, okay. And so then he wrote another one, and he asked me to just tell him what the answer was, and he said, that's right. And he says, Arthur, I want to do a game every Friday where I'm going to invite people to come up here, okay, and we're going to play this game, and we're going to do exactly what you did, okay? All you have to do is volunteer and, just beat the other students and get the answer faster, just like you just did now. And I said, okay. So that was my first exposure to kind of being in front of a crowd. And it turns out that I was actually really good at that game. And the difference was that I was good at that game in front of an entire class of people, of my peers. And so after like about 3 to a month or so of doing this game, some of the other students would come up and say, hey, Arthur, can you help me with my homework? I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, these people think I'm smart. I was like, no, my mom's waiting for me, sorry.
Yeah.
Until one day, Lynn Pachalski. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, this beautiful 8th grade girl comes up and says, Arthur, can you help me with my homework? And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, I learned to be smart. And that was a totally different journey. That was one of the key factors in changing my direction. Otherwise, I'd probably be working at a 7-Eleven still believing I was an idiot.
What do you think happened within you? Because I feel like one of my mentors, Tian Yao, she recently said something I really liked in regards to raising her child. She said, my children will go as far as I believe them to go.
Yeah.
To some sense, in a way, where it's like, how did you deal with this in reverse engineering the belief systems that was governing you from within? And do you think it was like the experience of this girl talking to you and this teacher putting you on a stage where you could publicly gather, how do you say it, evidence that you're not stupid that helped you to make this journey? Or was this something other that contributed to you gaining confidence?
Well, my entire body of work that I've directive communication psychology, science of group dynamics, right?
Yeah.
So it actually started back then. I didn't realize it. But think about it, okay? You can have your parents tell you, oh, you're really good, you'll be fine, don't worry, you're going to be smart, all this stuff. They're your parents.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, okay, maybe not all parents are that supportive, but still, I mean, there's still this whole thing where you feel, well, it's my parents. Okay, it's kind of, but then, there's also other adults that may give you encouragement. But really, what matters is the group. If you think about it, right? The group decides whether you're stupid or whether you're intelligent. And you're affected by the group. The group can decide whether you have power or you are helpless. Okay? You are, I mean, if you think about it, even people that are super smart, okay? But because of the group dynamics, because maybe they watch too much news or something, they feel that they're stuck. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are people that have so much more resources that do much less than people that have less resources because they're listening to the wrong people around them.
Personal question. In regards to the story you just shared, part of what drove me to become a leader in education and psychology was I never really quite got the message that I'm no longer the stupid kid, if that means. You know what I mean? It's I was like you. I had to repeat several grades. I got kicked off from 3 schools, and I had teachers who proposed the idea that I should rather do something with my hands instead of my head because that is no good.
I've heard
and
that.
And after writing hundreds of books, I still feel there's some part in me that says, "Go fuck yourselves. I'm gonna show you all." But at the same time, is that deep sense of inadequacy that drives you forward and never really healed in a way. What was it for you that drove you, or an early sign for you in which you cope with that situation that made you excel in your craft to the degree it did?
Well, okay.
That question make any sense to you?
It does. It does. And I would say my motto or the driving force has been my against mediocrity. And that's I've always had that ever since, that was, again, I mean, being bullied, okay, having, also I'll show people someday that I have this success, the originally the whole thing with the stupid kid and everything else, I believed it. I honestly believed that I was not a smart person. I still, to this day, cannot spell well. Okay, I mean, if it wasn't for whole spell check thing and technology and everything, I'd be totally screwed.
Yeah.
Okay, but the thing is that ultimately, that element of kind of not wanting to be average, which is the not wanting to be average, is what got me in trouble and got me bullied. But at the same time, it's also what's driven me to, well, basically achieve so far what I've achieved, and there's still much more to go.
What was for me personally, I've noticed something very strange in the most successful people I talked to, was that there's a certain element of trauma in their childhood that flips a switch within them, something that awakens that extraordinary hunger to say, whatever happens, I'm not going to be mediocre. What was this event for you that initiated this very unique journey that you're on currently, and is this even possible to give this to children who grow up without that kind of like bad environment, so to say? Do you know the gist of what I'm trying to say to you?
I do. I don't know if I had a specific trauma. There was, I mean, I just remember, there, even as a kid, there was just this hunger, to be outstanding. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't. I mean, that was the whole thing, right? I was a regular kid in this, in this entire, small city, but even but I was also a businessman when I was like 9 years old, right? Or 8 years old, and like with marbles and stuff. I bought my first car with revenue from selling gum in 8th grade, and I would carry a briefcase full of, most of it was full of gum.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, that gum was empty. At 25 cents a pop, I'd buy it for 10 cents. But there was nowhere else to buy stuff at the time. I had a captive audience, right? So, but I was the only 15-year-old that was able to buy his own car.
15 years old.
After the 8th grade school year, yeah. And and it was so that was kind of cool. And one thing I noticed at that time, again, remember, I was definitely not the cool kid, but when I had a car that I didn't have a driver's license to drive, but I was able to kind of, the police aren't that strict in that town, right? I had 3 of the cheerleaders in my freshman high school year come up to me and say hi. And I'm like, whoa, they actually talked to me.
What do you think was a moment that was a precursor to later success when you began your entrepreneurial journey?
The entrepreneur. When I was in first grade, I would draw these little tattoos or these little things, and what you'd do is on some paper, and you'd lick, and then you'd put it on there, and I'd sell those for like 5 cents and stuff. I was an entrepreneur from first grade on. I was doing this stuff from, and I was the marble king for a while. While everybody's playing individual marbles,
I remember
that. Games.
I remember that.
Yeah, and these boxes and stuff, and it's kind of like a casino, right? The house always wins.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's I also experienced those marbles where there were like different classes of how much they were worth in regards to the purity in a way, and it was very interesting. I'm also interested not only in mentors but in lessons our earliest caretakers taught us that maybe we had to unlearn in order to succeed at life. And what was maybe a lesson that you learned from your environment or your parents where it actually took you a while to learn that this is actually not a success pattern, but one thing that will lead you away from freedom and towards the ordinary, the very thing you try to escape from?
Wow.
If I may ask.
Maybe not the parents, but environment, okay? When I was young, it was okay to steal. Right? And I remember that started when my mom and I were at the laundromat, and I had this car. It was a car from the thrift shop. It wasn't an expensive car, but this kid said, "Oh, hey, wow, let me just kind of show you this thing, and here, stand over there, and I want to show you how this thing works." He took my car, and he was like, I believed him, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay, what is he going to do?" And he ran off with my little car. And it was like, and it was just so mind-blowing that, first of all, I fell for it, and I felt stupid. And on top of that, it was something that just happened. I grew up in an environment where, it's like, you see this in movies, okay, where it's like, all right, man, now we gotta take on some of this, let's have a beer and kind of thing. Seriously, this is a real thing, okay, back then. And not with my parents. My mom was, from Mexico. And my dad was very conservative. So I didn't really communicate much with my dad, so it was my mom that was mostly the center of my world, and for her it was also okay. Small things, right? Just little things that you can do and stuff like that, and that kind of took a little while to overcome. But one thing though that I, because of that one thing, I could never feel that it was okay to steal from a person, but it was okay to shoplift a little bit from a store, right? Because the store was big, and so therefore it wasn't an actual person.
How old were you when you made that discovery, or when this was being told to you?
9, 8,
9,
something
8.
like that.
Huh. If you could make a message for 17-year-old boys who grow up like in a place maybe a little bit isolated from the world, where they don't have great caretakers around them who encourage them to travel the world and to contribute something mighty to mankind, what would you say to them? Maybe like somebody who's still in that place where there's 20,000 cows and 10,000 people who can put their hands on their shoulder and convey like a little message to them.
Wow. That I don't know. A 17-year-old boy. I guess. Yeah. I guess the message is to discover who you want to be. Really, I mean, what do you want to be remembered for? That's really the thing. I mean, what's the foundation of your soul that if people were to talk about you, they would essentially come up with, what would they say? I mean, what would they say if you are that? So who do you want to be? I mean, that's really the thing. Because see, there's something though that you cannot impose what's right or wrong on people. You can guide them by showing them different things, even with my own kids, okay? I would never say this is good or this is bad. I would explain the situation, and then I would say, so is this good or bad? And let them make their own decision. They, interestingly enough, they always did. They all, at least according to the standard morals, right?
Reminds me of the cheesy quote, like you have two lives, one where you're born and the other one where you discover why. If you're also an expert in gamification, it's how did you give yourself permission to write your own verse of your life and your own hero's journey, so to say, and how would you design a gamified exercise for our youth so that they embark maybe that they start writing their own myth a little bit sooner, because I feel this is something that is surely lacking in this world right now. It's like true individuals who are in charge of their path. Like how would you, if you maybe I phrase this question in a way where it's like if you make an exercise mandatory for everybody in high school, that maybe contributes to them finding out their own path. How would you do that?
Well, okay. I mean, first of all, the competition element. See, gamification is measurement. Okay, it literally, that's it. It's just measurement that's more fun, right? Mm-hmm. And you create different kinds of levels and things that you can do. But see, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's management principles. You've got milestones, you've got KPIs, you've got all these different things, right? And they're different levels, right? Now, if you actually think about what do you want to achieve, all right? So I want to achieve X. Well, all right, so if you want to achieve X, that would be maybe a specific goal. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But, I mean, everybody talks about goal setting and all this stuff. It's important, okay? But the thing is that right now people aren't patient enough to finish their goals. I mean, it's like, oh, it's way out there. Yeah. So you have to have that big goal. That's great. But ultimately, what are all the little small goals that you have to be, to do in order to do that? And in order to get those small goals, what are the behaviors? See, that's the key. Right? What are the behaviors that you must do in order to achieve those goals? Because that you can measure every day. You can't measure the goal every day, but you can measure the behavior. Right? And so that means that if you say, all right, well, these are the behaviors. I want to do this. I need to be, I have to be proactive in my communication. If there's an opportunity, I have to have courage to talk to people. I mean, this is, for example, I mean, even just my journey in being able to understand women was part of that whole thing, right? Here's the thing. Okay, I was a nerd, right?
Story, please.
Here's the side story. All right.
Story. I love side stories.
All right. So here's
side quest, so to say.
First of all, I'm a nerd. All right. There, not really so many people that are girls, etc., interested in nerds. Okay, but there was this girl. Her name was Linda Kinkle.
Linda Kinkle.
Oh yeah, and she was smart. She was pretty. She was in my science class, which was my favorite subject. Okay, and so I one day I was like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna ask this girl out. I got up all my courage. I mean, really, just all my courage, right? And right after class, there's this 5-minute section, and between classes where you go from one class to the other. And so as she goes out, I quickly go out and follow her. And then I had already practiced what I was going to say and how I was going to do this. And then I said, Linda, and she turns around. Yes. And I'm like, hi. I was like, and she's like, what are you trying to say? and finally, I was like, maybe, I was wondering if you could, like, if you wanted to go to a movie. And you know what she said? She didn't say anything. She just started laughing uncontrollably, right? But I'm very optimistic, right? So I'm optimistic. I'm waiting for her to finish laughing. Maybe she's going to say yes, right? She just kept on laughing. And I slunked away, and she was laughing in the background as I left. But that wasn't the worst part. You know what the worst part was?
Tell me.
By the end of the school day, everybody knew.
Oh, boy.
Okay, and I didn't live that down for the whole year. And at that time, I had already decided women were evil. and the thing is that, like, a few years later, I had this vision of this old man hunched over this little wooden table with a little light going, and the old man was me. And I was old and alone. I thought, oh, gosh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be this person. And so what happened was I decided that I needed to change something, right? And I first of all, I mean, I was scared of women by that time. Seriously, it was just, but I thought, okay, I need to change something. So I need to start asking girls out, right? So I'm thinking, okay, what do I change? So I think, okay, if I had to change the meaning of rejection, all right? So I thought, all right, if I get rejected, well, it's not meant to be. But, it's not really very strong, right? But if I get rejected, I save time and I save money. Right? So if I get rejected, that means it wasn't meant to be, so I save time and money. Yeah. Now, that was something I could get into. But then I had to revise the meaning of success, right? Because success couldn't be the end goal of getting the date, because I might not get the date. So it was having the courage to ask out the girl. But then I thought, wow, okay, I could cheat, because I could just ask, girls that are not necessarily, nobody else asks out, right? And so I thought, no, okay, so I've got to ask out only the super pretty smart girls. Yeah. Right? And so I'm thinking, all right, so I would start asking girls out. Yeah. Okay, they weren't all smart, but they were all pretty, right? But okay, and I'd get rejected. And I'd feel really good, because, like, wow, I saved time and money, and I succeeded because I had the courage to do that. An interesting thing happened, though. After about maybe 4 months or so of doing this, girls started to say yes, because I started to have more confidence. Apparently, girls like guys with confidence, right? And so that confidence, was started to, brought me from literally a 0% success rate to about a 70% success rate in like 5 months.
Love that you measured it, by the way.
Well, roughly. I had this black book and everything. What
black book did you have?
No, the black book where you write down all the girls' names and numbers and all that stuff. And it was.
Did that book have a name?
Well, it was a black book. No,
it was a black book.
Called the Black Book.
I love it.
Okay, but it was kind of very cliche, but I had to have it, because it was
asking for a friend. If somebody would start right now, what's in it?
The
Black Book?
No, it's just the names and phone numbers of all these girls. It was for
You had a
me,
dating CRM. I love it.
it was
true
a
entrepreneur.
trophy. If
Yeah.
you think about it,
Yeah.
okay, that was my trophy because girls didn't like me. Girls rejected me the whole time.
Yeah.
This little black book, the more names and phone numbers that were in it, okay, it was a trophy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so but see, the thing is that was also something that taught me about the idea of changing the meaning. Sometimes that goal, that end result is literally about getting the courage to do a specific behavior. And sometimes that behavior takes, it takes, well, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
But having the courage to do it is the key.
Yeah. Meaning management. It's one of the things I've found over the years that is really the difference in how people view themselves and how far they go. I feel like for one person, it's a sign that maybe you are unlovable, where for another person it interprets rejection as a sign that I'm a courageous individual who's one step closer to being who he wants to be and with who he shares his life with.
Absolutely.
And when you think about the moment, like I'm very fascinated by initiation moments, and I found over the years that also the most successful people I encounter are those who endured the most. What was a moment of loss, a moment of where you encountered something that led to you becoming a man? Anything that comes to mind? in this
Well,
regard?
my dad died when I was 17, and I made some really stupid decisions after that. And he had left some insurance money, for my mom, which I convinced her that I knew how to invest it properly, and I didn't, and I lost it all. And then it's my mom, right? But she was like, "Don't worry," and stuff, and she was very supportive. But it's still something that what did I do, right? And so sometimes your ego gets in the way, and you're just an idiot. So and then my mom died after that. My mom and I were actually quite close. She was I had already started traveling, and she was going to come traveling with me, but she was needed to get a heart surgery. And they changed the doctor on her last minute, and so she was kind of freaked out, and she just never recovered. She never came out of the surgery.
Thank you for sharing that. And I found often that grief, it's been a huge topic of my life. And what advice do you have for somebody who experienced this for the first time, where they have to farewell their primary caretakers, their best friends, or somebody where they manage to transform a tragedy into a personal triumph, if they are in that moment after they lost somebody? How did you overcome it?
No, you don't really. I mean, you need to experience it. You need to cry. You need to feel it. If you bottle it up and pretend everything's fine, it's not good for you. And you need to feel it. You need to share it with people. Hopefully, you have people that you can share it with. But it's important to feel it, so that you can at least. It's kind of like, when the grief that you feel is kind of a final expression of love, I guess, So if you try to push it aside, you instinctively kind of are telling yourself, oh, it doesn't matter, when it does. And so you have this internal conflict that you may not notice, but it does appear in a lot of things because there's all kinds of other stuff that comes out of that. So in my personal opinion, experience, just feel it. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. But talk about it. Talk with people. Cry with people.
Big part of bereavement is forgiveness, I feel.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself for the mistakes you made. How did young author Carmazzi
Yeah.
learn forgiveness after you misinvested as a 17-year-old some of the funds that were left behind
that's
for you?
still,
because I think that's such a unique idiosyncrasy of your story.
That still bugs me, when I think about it. I mean, it's still something that I feel really guilty about. I mean, my mom trusted me. It could have made her life easier. But, I messed it up. So, I mean, it's, you have to move on. It's not like you dwell on it all the time. I mean, the thing is that I did learn from it. But, it's still something that I did. I was responsible. So that gives me at least a future perspective that, will help me to make different decisions in the future. And knowing that at least makes it like, okay, I screwed up. Now, at least I know to at least try to control my ego in certain situations in the future.
Do you think in regards to personal mistakes we make, I mean, like real mistakes, I think like when you become a man, we all have a graveyard of true errors we left behind. Do you think it's possible to shed them behind completely, or do we carry these blames with us for the rest of our lives, and the only thing we can do is to make sure that we not continue to put on more stuff into our backpack?
Everything is, I mean, see, this is the thing. Who you are now is a compilation of every decision you've made, good and bad. Okay? Don't get rid of the bad decisions. Don't get rid of the grief. Don't get rid of the regret. Okay? Use it. I mean, ultimately, that's who you are. Right? If you didn't make some stupid mistake, then maybe you would make another different decision that might have worse consequences in the future. Who knows? Right? I mean, the thing is that we are who we are because of what has happened, partially genetic, but largely also our environment. Okay? The decisions we've made. I mean, for example, I am a very optimistic person, okay, in general. But, do you know that that's a genetic foundation? It's based on an enzyme called P300. If you are optimistic, you have a lot of this enzyme, okay? That means, but there are other people who are not optimistic, right? So do we blame them for not being optimistic or kind of looking at the doom and gloom thing? Okay, we could, but I mean, it's not their fault. It's kind of like saying, oh, you have blue eyes, I don't like it.
You think so?
But no, optimism is largely genetic.
Would you not say that there is a gap in between when a thought occurs and your decision to buy into that thought? When I look at your uprisings, for instance, you made a conscious decision to change the meaning of particular events in your life.
Right.
So when a person is nihilistic or pessimistic, does it not say something about the value of that particular individual, since it's easier to go through life with a nihilistic mindset instead of giving into faith and the idea that it's like...
But see, the thing is that they can't help it. See, it's not always a decision to be optimistic, right?
You think so?
Well, actually, it's not me. There's a lot of studies that kind of show that, all right? So there is a specific enzyme that determines the amount of optimism a person has, okay? And that affects your outlook on life, okay? So if you are a pessimistic person, okay, it's not usually your fault. It's not necessarily because of your upbringing. It is large. It could be. I'm not going to say it's not. it doesn't have influence.
Yeah.
But there is a genetic foundation to a person who is generally pessimistic or optimistic.
Interesting. Seems we found the point where we differ a little bit in regards to opinions.
I'm just quoting the research. Okay, it's not an opinion. I'm just quoting the research.
Interesting. What was the most important thing that happened in your 20s?
Wow, got a girlfriend? I guess. I mean, that was a big thing for me. Well, 20s. How old? 20s? Later 20s?
You decide.
Yeah, I mean, early 20s. Yeah, got a girlfriend. Actually, the thing is that at that time, I was overcompensating for for all the girls that basically didn't want to have anything to do with me throughout high school and so on, right? So
She was a trophy, basically.
well, actually, all of them were.
Okay.
So there was a lot, right?
Yeah.
So that was it was again overcompensation, right? So okay, so now I'm a stud,
Yeah.
and the thing is that I mean, at the time, of course, it makes you feel like you're powerful and you're strong and everything, and it was one of those things where you feel that you're a good guy, but you are actually hurting people, well, specifically women, because of your selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a key thing. I guess, I just didn't, I was definitely what you would call a womanizer. And as much as I want to believe that I was respectful and everything else, I mean, in retrospect, I mean, there was definitely not a lot of respect there. It was because a lot of it was just showing what I had, so to speak, the trophies. Mm-hmm. So it was, Anyway, that was something that happened in my 20s, and then at that time also, I managed to make some good money, and so then you take the ego with the girls, you add money to it, and then you just become over egotistic, where you just okay, until I got stabbed when I was 27 years old.
You got stabbed when you were 27 years old.
Yeah. So right here.
What happened? Do you mind sharing the story?
Okay, so I was in Puerto Rico. Okay, so at this time, one of the things that I had, I had bought this small company that did corporate structures, and so then I learned a whole bunch of stuff about how to use corporate structures to help people to not pay taxes and not get sued, right? And so then we created this whole thing, and I would work for all these different lawyers creating these things, and they would mark it up and sell it to their clients, mm-hmm. right? So one of the things was Puerto Rico. Okay, Puerto Rico at that time had this thing where you could hire 15 Puerto Ricans, and then you would have a company there, and then that company could make all kinds of money from. And then it would send that money back to the American company as dividends, completely tax-free.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it.
Right? So Puerto Rico was not exactly the greatest, the safest place to be, and I like to explore.
What age was this?
I was 27.
You were 27, so you were in Puerto Rico at what year was this? Not year, but it's like the years.
I don't know.
70s, 80s, 90s?
It was I graduated high school in 1981.
I'm not good with math.
So yeah.
As everybody can see.
So I guess it would be somewhere around 90, maybe somewhere around there.
Okay, got it. Continue, please. So you were in Puerto Rico at that time.
90. Yeah, so I was in Puerto Rico, and so there's this place. So I was just kind of exploring and everything else, and So there's these guys that come over and said, hey, can you help us? There's like, my friend is, fell down, and it's like, and you're confused. And can you help? Okay. And they brought me back to behind this place, and there was this other two guys, and then one of them grabbed my hands, and like, I'm totally freaking out, right?
Yeah.
And another one, like from behind, hits me with a big piece of wood, right, against the. But by that time, because the adrenaline was going, I didn't even feel, being hit in the head.
Yeah.
Okay. But then the other guy takes this knife and stabs me. Okay. And I don't know if you've ever been stabbed, but it doesn't actually hurt.
Yeah.
Initially. And then, but then at that moment, it was like everything was in slow motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I could feel this warm, heavy feeling. Okay, and I looked down and like my shirt was covered in blood, and the worst part, it was my favorite shirt, and. And then somehow I managed to get away, and I ran into the main area where like all the people were like, oh my gosh, they're saying, oh well, can we help you, and I'm like, I'm freaking out because I think, oh, these guys, everybody here knows that I can identify these people, they're gonna finish me off or something, and so then what happened was they said, oh, maybe so there was some people came in a car and we'll take you to the hospital. And I was like, no. And then some people, this guy and this girl drove up in an El Camino. I don't know if you know what that is. It's kind of like
I know from Breaking Bad. I saw it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I got a beautiful car.
Okay, so it's got like a bed in the back that's open. So I figure, okay. They said get in the back. So I was like, there's nobody there. I can jump out. Worst case, right?
Don't forget the microphone, please.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
continue.
Okay, and so I jump into the back, and they drive and they're taking me over, and then they drive up this dirt road to what appears to be these mini warehouse storage things, right? And I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, oh, these guys are going to throw me in some mini warehouse storage and kill me. So I jumped out of this car as it's moving, and then they parked in front of one of the warehouses, little mini warehouse things, and there was a sign in front of it that says hospital annex.
Hospital annex.
So apparently it was like a little mini hospital inside of a storage unit.
Yeah.
And so I walked up to where the thing was and thanked them and said, and then and then they took me to the hospital and stuff, and ended up making another hole in my side because they said that my lung was going to get full of blood. But the only actual
So it was really deep, actually.
problem that I had was later in life, the hole that the hospital made was actually a problem.
Oh, gee. So you got stabbed twice, basically.
Yeah. It did, right? This one was fine. But yeah.
Yeah, what do you think like getting stabbed did to you? But we talked a lot about meaning in a way. It's like if we see a graph of your life and there's a low point in you getting stabbed, what do you think did this to you in regards to the later course of that you embarked upon?
Well, that was a life-changing experience because
a turning point for you.
Yeah, that one was definitely one of those turning points in my 20s, because that one was I almost died, right? So it made me reflect on who I wanted to be, right? What kind of a legacy would I leave? And like I said, at that time, I was a complete asshole, okay? I was a womanizer. I was just, and I didn't really think about it. I just, I was Arthur Carmazzi, right? And, but what happened was that I had this, you almost died, and it's like, wait, do I want to be remembered like this, as this kind of person? So basically after that, I sold everything and I traveled around the world for like 3 years, and then ran out of money.
That's such a beautiful story. And I love the idea that you were at the crossroads and made a decision in a way. How old were you when you were in the hospital, when you had that epiphany, so to say?
Yeah, well, there was another part of the hospital.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Or like when you were stabbed, like what age were you again?
I was 27 at that time.
If you got talk to that 27-year-old and he could see what great things later happened in your life as a consequence of this, what would the conversation between you, what would the conversation be like?
Wow. Be more organized.
Who would say that? You would
I
say?
would say that.
You would say?
Yeah, no.
Why,
I mean,
why
no,
so?
I mean, even after that, it was definitely a very, up and down. But, I wouldn't change anything because I made a lot of mistakes after that also, right? I mean, I went broke and then I, made some more money and then I went broke again. And, but, everything has still taken me to where I am now, right? And that means that, I married this amazing woman and I have 2 amazing kids. And, all of these things would never have happened if there was even a slight change, even if I would have made one decision different, right? And, and who knows? I mean, maybe I would have turned into an asshole again. I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the difficulties helped me to at least reflect on the person that I wanted to be.
At what point of time did you, I think like we have some similar stories in this regard. My life also turned downwards and ended in rock bottom. I also was stabbed one time, but this is a story for another podcast. But my question for you is, at what point do you stop fixing yourself, or
you don't?
At what point do you give yourself forgiveness for being the asshole? And at what point do you become born anew, so to say?
Okay, I mean, see, the thing is that the asshole, I don't need to forgive myself for being an asshole because I was, okay? It is what it is, okay? Fact is a fact. Now it's just about being a better person, right? So forgive, not forgive, I don't know. I don't really see, I don't see the point. It was. And now, but as far as when do you stop trying to improve, I'm still trying to be better, right? I mean, there's always different things. I mean, you'll never be perfect. I'm still an asshole sometimes, okay? It's just, you don't do it on purpose, but, sometimes you just can't help it, right? I mean,
choices, right?
Right.
Yeah. In regards to breakthroughs, you've talked a little bit about money, and I think that is peculiar about your journey as well. It's the ability to have seen both sides of the coin. The idea of like having great business success, but also as a confident guy, maybe mismanaging or misinvesting at some point in your journey.
Lots of points.
What was the first moment you made a lot of money?
First moment I made a little money?
A lot of money.
A lot of money?
Of course, that always
25.
How did you make a lot of money back then?
No, with the corporate structures thing.
Yeah. What did you learn from this about money in a way? Because I think like
more money you have, the easier it is to get girls. That's what I learned.
Really?
That's what I learned. I swear.
Teachers,
I
right?
swear,
How
right? I mean, that was my thing, right? I was, so it was. That's what was my thing. I remember I had this whole stigma of, I'm not good enough. Girls are, will never like me, and that was something that was there when I was a kid, when I was in high school, and that whole rejection and everything else that was there, and the money was a vehicle for me to be special in a better way than the special kids class. So that was me proving myself, and I was definitely not good at managing money. I would spend it like I wouldn't even know where it went. Even up until the point where I recently, well, not recently, married my wife, but when I married my wife about 16 years ago, I still couldn't really manage money. If it wasn't for her, I'd still probably have no idea where all this money goes, right? So she was the one that really grounded me, I guess, I would say.
If you would design a secret masterclass for people who are at the crossroads, like you were when you were 27, in regards to financial education, what would the first class be about in regards to simply helping people to make more money?
Make more money?
Make more money.
Okay, focus on something that you're excited about. I mean, really, that's that's it's got to be something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, I mean, the thing is that there's a lot of people out there that just want to make money. Okay, and yeah, that's cool. Except that then they start to go into things that they think are going to make money rather than things that they're passionate about. So, first of all, one of the key things is just be creative, because what are some of the problems that you see that other people have that nobody's fixing? Okay, and or what do you see that somebody else is doing that you could do better?
If you would compare it on the other side to behavior or cognitive patterns that lead to poverty, what do you think is the most glaring incongruence between these two outcomes if we look at it from an individual standpoint? Because part of this podcast is also about like deconstructing personal paths to success. And I think money is something that is very important for all of us.
Ego is one of the key things that's, relatively destructive.
It is.
And when it comes to money, I mean, again, see, there's a double sides to that, right? I mean, you have to have the sense of personal significance that says, I am able and capable of achieving something bigger and better than somebody else. Okay? But the thing is that sometimes the ego is the thing that will, there's two sides. You get you get the part where you just kind of throw money without even thinking about it at something, and then there's the side where you don't do anything because it's not good enough. Okay? So there's got to be a balance in between that. Okay? And the idea of inaction. I mean, I've got a friend, brilliant person. Okay? Absolutely, crazy smart. But he's just so worried that of so many things that can go wrong that he doesn't actually do anything. And then somebody else just came up with this thing, but I thought of that 2 years ago, and he did, but he didn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Wraps up perfectly from your black book in giving yourself permission to fail, so to say, and having a special meaning with something not working out in this regards.
Yeah, the failure thing is important. My idea of failure is not okay. So there's people say, oh, there's success and there's failure. I don't see it that way. I see that as success and mediocrity. Okay, because failure is part of the success.
Mm-hmm. What is your question somebody who is a struggling entrepreneur who didn't have his breakthrough, who talks to a very successful entrepreneur who had many breakthroughs in his curriculum? What is the right question that struggling entrepreneurs should ask the OG?
Wow. The question would be, if you were me, in my situation as I am right now today, what would be the first 3 things that I should do in order to improve my quality of life?
Great answer. I will ask you that later.
Yeah.
gonna steal that. What was something that you had done, or maybe before I go there, I'm currently working to get Robert Kiyosaki on the podcast, and he's famous for authoring the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, he's coming to Singapore on June. Actually, I can introduce you to the people bringing him in if you want.
Yeah, it would be a great honor. Who was your rich dad?
Oh, never had one. It was. Yeah, I never had one. I everybody that was a role model was somebody trying to basically be I mean, they were just trying to do something. I guess, there were inspirations. Like I remember reading The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, right? And I thought, wow, I could write simple ideas like this and put it into a story also, and this guy makes it so easy and so interesting and so fun, and so like Ken Blanchard was like my idol at the time, right? And it was and that was kind of what got me started on this whole idea of being able to create simplicity in something that other people see as complicated, and especially related to psychology. And like you said, I mean, psychology, anybody that's interested in psychology ultimately is a little bit screwed up and trying to fix themselves, right? I mean,
This is a very therapeutic endeavor for me, to be honest. How can I get my shit together?
yeah, basically.
Yes. Maybe that's a good follow-up question. What was the moment where you got your shit together?
You never get your shit together, right?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, okay, you improve your shit, right?
You live in a castle.
I know, but
at some point you got to look around yourself. You have money. You have a family. You're an international author. You got to say like,
oh no, okay,
I think
I'm not
I've
complaining.
arrived.
I'm not complaining. Oh no, arrived? There's no such thing as arrived. The moment you think you've arrived, you die. Okay. I have a very nice life. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. Okay, I mean, even during COVID, you really get to appreciate. I mean, in Bali in a castle, we had COVID parties with like 220 people and stuff. Because we have walls all around us and a cliff and a river, so nobody could come in, and we got this big giant castle door, right? And so I mean, it was. But it was just. I mean, there's still struggles, right? There's still struggles. But the thing is that, like right now we're building the lost city of Lemuria right next door, which is this kind, it's carved into the volcanic stone mountain. Okay. So Avalon, the castle, is also carved into the same mountain, right?
Yeah.
But now, so every time you have something, it's like, okay, what more can we do? How can we do this in a more epic way? How can we do something that's even cooler? And it can't stop. If you stop, your brain just kind of says, oh, okay, I'm going to retire, and then you have no purpose. Mm-hmm. And if you have no purpose, your brain ultimately says, well, time to go.
Mm. Still, 20,000 cows, 10,000 people. Now you live in a castle, you're a successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, international thought leader in many different fields. If your younger selves would look at you in your castle and say, dude, what the fuck? How did you manage to accomplish all of this? What would the first thought that would come to mind here?
I had this goal that when I was a kid, I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 32. Right?
When did you articulate this goal for yourself?
Yeah, it was later than 32, considerably. Okay, and again, like I said, I was like up and down, and it wasn't. Honestly, I mean, if I wouldn't have married my wife, okay, I wouldn't be where I was today, because she has given me much more than love. Okay, she has really helped me to ground myself, to manage things. Okay, she would save money without telling me, and then when there was this opportunity to buy land, it's like, oh yeah, we have the money. It's like, what? Like, holy shit, yeah, it was, and then it's just a matter of building from there, right? It's not a solo journey. It's not a solo journey.
If you could put your hand on the shoulder of that more wild, younger version of yourself who got stabbed and was involved in some crazy shenanigans, and could give him some advice for love, not knowing at that point that he would make the same noble choices you made, what would you tell that person?
I was always a romantic.
You were.
I was always, I always, even though I was a womanizer, but I always felt that there would be this one person somehow, and I was just looking for that person. Okay, and I would write poems. I would, I would get when in Reno, which was the big city, we would go. There was this thing called cruising, where everybody would just get in cars and they would just drive down and very slowly, and in this massive traffic, just kind of drive down the strip, right? And because the cars are stopped most of the time, so I'd bring all these flowers, and I'd see some pretty girl, and I'd go and give her some poem and some flowers and stuff like that, and try to get her phone number. And but the thing is that I guess that the idea of love has always been there. Okay, I guess it was just a matter of maybe don't look too hard. I don't know. Actually, I mean, the journey brought me to where I was, right? So if I changed something, I wouldn't be here. I don't know if I would give any different advice, because it was just something that was, and I mean, okay, here's another thing, which kind of sounds like an asshole, but it's true. The older you get, the younger your wife can be.
Elaborate.
I mean, so my wife is 22 years younger than I am, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but so that's because I got married when I was older. So if I would have gotten married earlier, then I mean, you're not going to marry a 7-year-old, right? So, I mean,
hopefully not.
Yeah. So I married my wife when she was 23, and and it's but it's been a really great journey, and it's been it's been one of those things where it's never been perfect, but it develops.
I think also we can learn also a lot from losing love. I feel
very much.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel, particularly as a man, I feel your first real broken heart has a particular place in your journey of betterment, in a way. Hopefully, what was that like for you, and what did you learn from it?
First broken heart, I don't know.
Or like maybe that one moment where can be a divorce, can be a broken heart, can be that one girl that got away, can be whatever. What was that moment for you where you attached that heavy meaning to that particular situation?
I guess there was this one. There was at one point there I was dating 3 girls who all knew about each other. Okay, and one of them I kind of liked a little bit more than the other 2. Okay, but she was more aloof. Which is probably why I liked her. But anyway, one day I said, if you want me to stop seeing the other girls, you ask, and then we can be just exclusive, okay? And she said, okay, let's be exclusive. And then within literally 3 days, she said, oh, I can't take the pressure of actually, just having like you as a boyfriend all the time. I can't do this anymore. And she broke up with me. Yeah. And so there was, I was like, oh no, after I broke up with the other 2 girls. And so it was, but it was like my karma, right? But that was one of those things where I was like, damn, because at that time, I mean, I had really liked that girl. I really wanted to further develop it and everything. She was an accountant, and which is completely different than my brain. And but it was, it was one of those. I guess that was one of those things that had an effect on me.
Do you think, as I resonate to that story to a huge degree, and for me, I often wondered if, for me, being a womanizer was more about like protecting myself from the true danger of abandonment, or really putting all your eggs in one basket and risking that somebody sends you away. What was the moment for you where you overcame this fear of being with somebody, because I feel like this is something that a lot of wild man shares, like that it's actually fueled not by greed, but by fear of missing, or by fear of
Fear of
somebody
loss.
saying no
No.
to you when they really see who you are.
Maybe. I mean, I guess that element of fear came from having backups, right? Or knowing
Yeah.
that
If you split your meaning, like Voldemort, it's like
yeah. There you
it's
go.
like it's not that hard if you lose one part of your soul, because you have 7 more people who maybe don't run away, and it would actually find very hard to tap out
But-
of that mindset, and it's like
again, one of the benefits as well as difficulties of being a romantic is that every girl that you are with, you fall in love with them, even if it's for a short time.
yeah.
And you just kind of have this. I mean, that was one of the things that was good and also difficult. Was even though I was a womanizer, even though there was like all these different women, every woman was the center of my attention when I was with her, right? And that was something that I mean, it wasn't an act. I mean, I really felt it, right? So it's like falling in love, and then they'd leave, and then it's like, but that's okay because I got this other girl, okay, or I can get another one. I mean, so there was it was not having at that time. It was about having the skill of being able and the confidence of being able to. I never went to bars. I never picked up girls in bars. Okay, I'd go to shopping malls and supermarkets. Okay, that was the best place.
If we would write Arthur's pickup guide as the next bestseller, what would be the first chapter about in regards to a love lesson that you would like to convey
love lesson.
to
Wow.
young men who are on their pursuit to having their journey?
One thing that I also learned, because so I've got this whole ambition side where business is so important and making things happen and all of this stuff, and ultimately I mean, there was a lot of times when I would go in some cases with somebody special, and I was on a date and the phone would ring and I would then switch over to business mode, right? And I mean, fortunately, I learned that was not the right thing to do, but that was something that I didn't until when one of the ladies told me. It was not something that it was that was obvious to me, right? Because it's like, oh, darling, you're like so amazing, and I just love looking into your eyes. And sorry, hang on. Oh, hello. Oh, yeah. And by the way, and after bye, it's back to it was back to the focus, right?
Yeah.
And so that was it. To me, it didn't seem like it was wrong, but of course, I learned later on that was not. You don't do that. So you always have to be present. So no matter who you're with, be present and listen more than you talk. Okay. If they want to talk about their ex-boyfriend, listen. Okay, be there and be a person that they can talk to. Okay, be a friend first, and then everything else just comes naturally.
I love this. Go and take notes for a friend in a couple of minutes. Best friend you ever had,
Wow.
and what makes him the best friend you ever had?
There was a couple people, but there was. I guess in high school I had a couple of best friends. There was one gentleman named Jess Davis and another one named Mike Vecchiarelli, and they, I don't know. We just all of us were a little bit weird, right? And Jess, he was into knights and stuff like me, and Mike was into science and everything, and I mean, we just created all kinds of stuff, and we would I remember one time we made this medieval tent, and we went out into the mountains carrying this big, giant, stupid thing. And we only took a bow and arrow and a knife. Okay, no food, right? Because we were going to live off the land. The only thing we managed to eat was one squirrel, and it wasn't very much meat. It was, it was like, eventually 3 days later,
How did it taste, though?
Yeah, I don't know. It tasted not like chicken. It didn't taste like chicken. I don't know. It tasted kind of a little beefy, sort of, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting, yeah.
But and then we came down. When we came down, we were like, we came down in this area where they have like picnics and stuff, this park, and it's like we scammed some food off of the people because we were so hungry.
I love this.
But since then, honestly, I was just traveling, and I haven't had that many really great friends. The friends have been the girlfriends, I guess, and because I ended up spending a lot of time with them, and not really, even now I don't really have a lot of like best friend. I don't actually friends that I can go out with, because living in Bali, I mostly stay at home. I still like to work. Working is my hobby.
Yeah. Do you think there's truth to this saying, like, eagles fly alone in regards to success? In regards to like the idea that's like maybe you don't have time for that because it's
no. I don't agree with that. That may be my immediate situation, but I've got another friend. He is successful because of his friends, because he knows all of these people and he networks all the time, and so there's a lot of people that I don't agree with that. I think it's everybody's thing. Everybody's got their own thing.
You're a great networker yourself. Like it's. You don't think so?
No, not really.
Yeah, I feel in my last podcast I had Julian Ulik on the show. Like I'm not sure you know, and he was a speaker here in Bali recently. Like self-made multimillionaire, and he's like the master of ceremony. He always throws these big parties and brings people together, and stuff happens in a way. And I learned a lot from him. And what was something maybe you learned in regards to connecting yourself with the right people? Because I feel you're a visionary and an inventor and a person who moves the world, but in order to make things happen, you usually need money from other people, or like you bootstrap it yourself. Well, who was the person who taught you about fundraising, maybe? And it's like, how do you do that?
The fundraising thing never worked out for me.
Really?
I always had these crazy ideas, and and I'd tell people, and they'd say, maybe someday later, come back after you have something. But then So I'd have to come up with ways to make money to build something, and by that time I didn't need their money because So there was no point, right? So it's like, I mean, right now we actually need a lot more money because of this metaverse project, and it requires considerable resources. So this is we actually are doing fundraising, but I'm doing fundraising with people that actually know how to do it, because I never had that. Avalon, the castle, okay, we built it from scratch. It was, my wife and I, basically, I was the guy with the ideas, and unfortunately, because, of my work, and we have over 660 licensed DC psychology trainers, which is the methodology that I developed. And so they, that network has also, supported the lifestyle, I guess. But then, and then slowly building the castle, and then the castle's now a resort, and that also makes money. And so then Lemuria is going to be like a tourist destination where people have to, become guardians of humanity by going through these 4 different trials and have to find the secret passages and so on.
Thank you for sharing that. You have 600 people in your licensing business with the
660 plus licensees. That means they have paid to use all of my materials and our online tools, and we support them with their business, right? Because the more successful they are, the more tools they buy. So fascinating.
What's the story around that? Because I have as a project called the Behavior University, where I'm contemplating of also starting something similar. It's basically we use technology to share the best tools from the best therapists in the world for individuals in a way, so that they can shorten the learning curve in order to do better work faster in a way. But I'm very fascinated by talking to people. I've never heard somebody who had like this many people using the methodologies that you invented in a way. It's almost so many people where it's like scary to imagine. Like, how did you manage that?
I think it's still small. Okay, but
Or what's the right question to ask in regards to this endeavor to get out the gist of wisdom from that project of yours?
Okay, ultimately, here's the thing. Okay, everybody's got some cool methodology. Everybody's got some way of solving problems. Okay, that's not new. Okay, now of course, I personally think that my stuff is better because it is very flexible. It's not a set of rules. It helps people to discover their own rules that are best for them. Okay, so it's an anti-model model or a series of models. Okay, but one of
if you would summarize your model in a nutshell and make it understandable for idiots like me.
Science of group dynamics. Okay, so there's multiple models that help people to understand how and why people do what they do in groups and how to influence those groups. Okay, for example, sometimes, okay, you're a smart guy, but when when you're with one group of friends, that group of friends, you're innovative and you're creative and you're like confident, and then with the same type of situation, the same knowledge and expertise and everything else that you have, you're maybe with a different group of people, and for some reason you're just not that creative and you're not that excited and you're not, there. So the group dynamics affects who you are. Okay, and by understanding how and why that works, you can make small modifications that help to get people to change the way that they react to you, in which case then, of course, that supports you to be a better version of yourself, right? Because you're creating environments that support you and them being the better versions of themselves. So we've got a whole bunch of models. One of them is colored brain. That's the more popular one. And colored brain identifies the brain's ambiguity relief process. So ambiguity relief is how your brain gets clarity. Okay? So it's a genetic process of how you get clarity. So it's not your personality. It's not even your behavior. It's how you get clarity. But how you get clarity also affects basically the way that you would approach something, right? So let's say we're being analytical about something. My process of analysis may be different than your process of analysis, but then you're going, oh my gosh, Arthur, why are you doing it that way? And then maybe that would affect your trust because you think I'm an idiot or whatever, and we've got these different ways of looking at things, so therefore we end up creating these situations where we lose synergy or potentially lose trust. And so therefore the environment, maybe you shut up and and I don't know that you're that you think that I'm an idiot, and therefore I just keep doing what I'm doing without understanding that there's a conflict because you don't say anything, right? And so that perpetuates an environment that isn't safe, and then you just become an underachiever, for example.
Yeah. Strategies for problem solving. One of the things I'm fascinated by is obviously successful people have better ways of solving the problems in their life, right? It's at least it seems so in a way. What is your approach to solving a problem? Can it be if we would help like maybe somebody who hasn't figured out how to overcome the challenges that are on their journey, some generative approaches in a Socratic steps that you apply to yourself in regards to solving a problem?
All right, well, let me ask you a question. All right. So first of all, okay, and this goes back to the colored brain, for example. All right. See, solving a problem for me, okay, I am what would be called chaotic processing, okay, in the green brain, in the colored brain system. That means that in order for me to get clarity, I need to take action, right? Now, let's say, for example, you might be a person that needs to get clarity first through kind of finding the structure. okay? And if there is no structure, creating structure, right? Now, the moment that so because of my way of my way of getting clarity involves actually taking action, that means that for me, my quote secret to success is just do shit.
Do shit.
Right? And because of that, I will make more mistakes. But because I'm constantly moving, I can fix the mistakes as I'm doing them. Right? But eventually, something works. Now, on your case, you would look at somebody like me and say, you are messed up, man. Okay? Why? That is just totally the wrong thing. You're not mitigating your risk and yada, 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 yada. And that way, and I'm saying, well, great, but that's who I am, right? So, but you can't say that my way of solving problems is the right way for everybody. It's the right way for my brain process, because that's how I get clarity. It's how I solve problems. It's how I see things. Even like the whole structure of Avalon, right? Okay, normally what you would do is you would survey the land and you'd get all this stuff and you have all these plans and all these drawings and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I made a styrofoam and cardboard model, okay, that was more or less kind of, for the first part, and then the rest of it just kind of built it as I would look at the land and I just stare at it for like 15 minutes. And kind of go, okay, now I can see it, and I would see it in my brain, and now I'd start, and I'd take a shovel and I'd start to kind of go over here and I'd show the people, okay, this is where we got to do this, and then my wife would, be there and help to make it happen, and stuff would happen, right? But I'd be there. In fact, even building, okay, there was when we had bought this land, okay, where the castle is now, and we had, at that time, we were living in another villa that was rented. Now, back then, you couldn't do monthly rentals. You pay by the year, and that was it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so our lease was up, but there was no on the land. They had built so far one room that was half finished. No door in the front, no plumbing, okay? So it's like the decision, do we rent again or do we move there into this place that's full of dirt and a construction site ultimately? So we chose to move there, right? And our kitchen was a piece of plywood with a sink that just kind of had a little thing that went down into the dirt. and some little stove. That was the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then so we ended up staying and living in this in this construction zone. And because there was no plumbing, okay, originally they said, it should be done within 3 days. Yeah, right. Anyway, we used the river for bathing and the other stuff, but the other stuff was downstream. And so So I mean, I guess one of the key things about decisions, also back to that, is be flexible, right? I mean, you could have the whole safety and luxury and comfort of the other villa, or you can just put yourself out. But because we did put ourselves out, we were able to be there and literally build what we needed to build and make it cooler.
I love this story. I have to ask though, I feel people differ also in regards to what they want, in regards to how big and juicy and audacious the goals they go after in regards. Who gave you permission to build your castle or to become a millionaire or being a best-selling author? Like, how did you dream? How did you learn to dream big?
I was a kid. I just never stopped being a kid.
Interesting.
I was like, when you're a kid, like, wow, okay, I want to live in a castle. I want to have a big giant sword, okay, like Excalibur. Okay, I'm Arthur, right? I want to have a big round table. I want to have a library like the one in Beauty and the Beast, man. Okay, and I do. I built that library just like they had in Beauty and the Beast.
I love this. Tell us a little bit about because I feel this also involves your you being a dreamer, your latest project with the AI metaverse thing. What is it about?
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So my whole background, learning and development, training, consulting, making companies better, right? Okay. And making companies better by helping people to enjoy their work more and essentially learning about themselves, right? So that's all part of the whole scope. Okay. Scope of DC psychology, scope of most of my life's work, right? Now here's the thing. Okay. DC psychology, our training, all that stuff, it's super cool, okay? It's like we've got the experiential stuff, we created all these proprietary games, we've got all this stuff, we even have a lot of things online, everything else. And yet, and even though it's way better than a lot of stuff that's out there, it's still, people still go back to work and they forget shit.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like no matter how good you are, no matter how many 10s you get on your evaluations, people still go back to work and forget shit. And I'm like, there's got to be, now, our culture change programs, those are a little better, right? Because you've got everybody in the company that is connected and learning and developing and supporting each other. So that's a totally different thing. But in training, there had to be a better way, and there is a better way, and people have known about this better way forever, okay, which is on-the-job training. But how do you have a coach or a trainer follow you around for a freaking few months until you actually figure out what people are actually doing and why they're doing that, and how do you actually implement things? Because once you implement some idea, you can't take it back, right?
Yeah.
People will, that's that guy. Okay, or that girl. Okay, look at what they did, right? But now, let's just take the idea that me as a thought leader, and for that matter, all these other thought leaders and people that have really great ideas on how to do something, people that don't copy paste, right? And we can put that into an AI. There's an AI of me right now. Okay, it's not the best yet. Okay, we're still working on it. Okay, but my AI knows directive communication psychology, and it can ask questions, and it can get you to be, it can help you to identify the root cause of the real problem, right? Because a lot of times, when you're doing training, one of the key things that happens is that we ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Well, because your HR people are given a mandate. We need to make these people better leaders. So let's get leadership training. Well, okay. So what is the objective? And then they give you the objective, and it's like, why is this? Okay, what are the problems related to this? Why did you choose these objectives? Da da da. Oh, okay. Well, technically, you don't actually need leadership training. You need this. Okay, and oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. But they don't know that because they don't know that they don't really understand the root cause many times. Okay, so first of all, you have the first AI that helps to identify the root cause. Okay, now. That once that root cause is identified based on the input and the questions that have been asked, now that AI will create a scenario of avatars. Okay, they're non-player characters, NPCs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that are designed to act out the problem. All right. Now you are in there. Now the only difference is that now you have your AI coach. It could be me. It could be Marshall Goldsmith's stakeholder-centered coaching. It could be John Matone's program on visionary leadership. It could be all kinds of stuff, depending on who's your favorite thought leader, whatever. Okay. So now that AI who has access to that person's IP, intellectual property, is able to, first of all, give you a few things. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to try to solve this problem. Okay, now you as an avatar can go in there and you can just go ahead and try to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Right now, chances are you're not going to solve the problem, and you're going to get reactions from people from these NPCs, right? Because these, so on you're trying to solve the problem. Okay, and then you can try again, and then maybe the AI now gives you a little bit of advice. Okay, did you notice that this person did this here, da da da, and da da da? Did you see that? Okay, and now you can try again. Okay,
Yeah.
now maybe there's okay, you get maybe a little better. Okay, you didn't get an adverse reaction, but still not really solving the problems. Then maybe now the AI gives you, okay, hey, now let's find out what colored brain you are, for example, and what color brain you think these people are. Da 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 da. Okay, now can you solve this problem? Okay, and then you go, it's like, well, okay, you got something, but still not great. And then you try again. Finally, you, in your own way, based on your trial and error, solve the problem. You get retakes over and over and over again with no consequences. There's no failure. So you can try. And now you have confidence. Now you can actually go and see the same situation, because that was based on the real situation, okay, and apply this in a real world scenario with confidence and your own way of doing things. See, with most training, okay, they give you a set of rules. You do this, you do this, you do this, and then you get that. Well, yeah, but it doesn't work for everybody. Maybe it's like, okay, that's good, but maybe it doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Right? And so this way, it takes the personalized learning, to a whole new level, because you are making decisions, failing, retrying, with no consequences until you finally get it, which is the ultimate retention and the ultimate level of developing confidence for implementation.
Fascinating. You're basically not only building digital people, but also a digital world, so to say, where thought experience can be executed in order to test different outcomes, in order to help a person come to the right decision. Or did I understand this correctly?
But see, the right decision for me may not be the right decision for you.
Yeah.
Right? See, your way, we could have the exact same problem.
Yeah.
Okay? But your way of handling the problem, because of who you are, can work in a different way than if I tried to do it. Right? Have you ever noticed that, okay, let's just look at the concept of relationships, right?
Yeah.
But just relationships in a work environment.
Yes,
let's say. So you go and the way that you would interact with people may give you. They will give you a certain amount of influence, maybe because you're charismatic and you've got something, right? That is part of who you are, and that charisma and stuff helps you to solve this problem. But let's say I go in there, I have no charisma whatsoever, okay, and I'm kind of a nerd and I don't really know, but I still have to solve the problem. But me trying to do it in your way would never work. I can still get the trust, I can still get the potential leadership ability, but it's not going to be in the same way that you do.
Yeah, I love the application in regards to helping people in this regard find their own unique way forwards. And I think one of my favorite quotes is from Karl Popper. He said, like, the purpose of thinking is to let your thoughts die instead of you. And one of the things that I always wanted to equip people with is when they're at the crossroads, is to make a decision that protects them from themselves on a behavioral standpoint. And I think the best way to do it is to remind them in that particular situation of what the final outcome will be like, so that they can make a decision in regards to, okay, you are a sober alcoholic, you could drink tonight, but this is what happens, like, if you make that particular choice in a way. How do you think, like, the metaverse in the future is going to change how we are going to live, knowing that what you're building upon?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, the metaverse itself is, well, there's everybody that's ever played a game has been in a metaverse. Okay, so the concept of a metaverse simply is an alternative world. What's in that alternative world is different. So what we're doing is very specific enterprise level training and development, coaching. Okay, it's for companies that need to make people find their better selves, right? I mean, it takes the ability for I mean, it gets people to have the ability to make mistakes and still ultimately generate the confidence that is going to help them to achieve more of who they can be. You know, and this is where a lot of training fails, because a lot of training is like, oh, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. Here are some of the models. Here's the case studies. Well, yeah, that's all great if you fit that mold. So where will it take us? It'll take us to an ability, a greater scope of personal success, where people feel better about who they are, and you have more achievers instead of underachievers at work.
What do you think is the final version of this going to look like? As a visionary, I feel like you guys, like you are
The final version.
at the frontier. How is this going to change humanity in regards to application of it? Because I think these are the seeds of something.
Okay, well, the final version is always going to be evolving, right? I mean, right now, by next year, we'll have a working model that companies will be able to implement for their onboarding. They'll be able to implement it for their training. You know, all I mean, in a big way. Okay, right now we've got some simple stuff, but I mean, even if you just think about it, okay? Think about the idea that leadership, for example, is not that easy to learn. Why? Because it's not the same for you as it is for me or as it is for anybody else here, right? Leadership ultimately is a very personal thing. And leadership also is very specific to the culture that you're in. So let's say, for example, if you want to be a great leader in Google, it may not be the same strategies or focus or abilities as somebody that's being a great leader in Citibank, right? So the culture that you're in, the organizational culture, does play an important role on the type of leader that you need to be, and you as an individual play, ultimately the ultimate role in becoming the leader that is right with you, or that is right for you within that culture.
Fascinating. A couple of hot topics before we go to the last segment of the interview due to time topics. As you know, like we're somewhat in the same business. I'm also building an AI company that focuses on enabling intergenerational conversation between AIs. Like what I'm doing here, I think it's a privilege that I have that I would like to share with the rest of the world, so that you can talk to the coolest people on the planet, so to say, and learn from them. We've spoken about the metaverse right now, so if you would be in a room with Mark Zuckerberg, what would that conversation be like?
Wow, Mark Zuckerberg. You know, I don't know enough about Mark Zuckerberg other than he's got lots of money and you know, and he built Facebook. And he's got a Chinese wife. I mean, that's literally all I know. I don't know. I guess, you know, what would it be like? I would guess. I mean, he definitely has the vision of the metaverse. Okay, that's he started too early though, and you know that's the problem. He started before. I mean, we had actually started a little early too, but we scrapped everything April 5th, 2021, when 2022, when Epic Games came up with Unreal Engine 5, which allowed the ability for very high resolution graphics to be streamed rather than having to download something. So that meant the polygons and all the stuff that makes data transfer very difficult was no longer a problem. And so we made the hard decision of literally just throwing away all the money and effort we've spent and starting over. But Mark Zuckerberg would not. I mean, by that time he'd already spent billions of dollars. I mean, it's really tough to say, oh, well, you know, let's scrap everything that we've already done with the billions of dollars and start over. I mean, you know, you think that people with money have it a lot easier, but sometimes when it comes to decisions like that, how do you justify, especially when you've got a public listed company, that you're just going to scrap everything and start over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think is somebody who's still in the early stages of his entrepreneurial journey, meaning like, let's say like less than 10 employees. That's where I am right now. A warning that you can give to that person once things scale up, in a way.
Oh.
Something where it's
Control
like
your culture.
control your culture.
Control your culture. The last thing you want to be is stuck in a company that you've developed that has a toxic culture. I mean, that's the worst. That would be the worst feeling. You've got something that you've built, but because maybe you've got the wrong partners, or you've got the wrong employees, or you've got you didn't take care of the culture and nurture it from the very beginning, that would have a negative effect.
Elon Musk recently purchased Twitter.
He did?
He did. And one of the funniest scenes I ever saw was he walking into the Twitter's headquarters with a sink and posting that sink in, and then he purged pretty much like the company and fired lots of people who were not in congruence with the philosophy that he embodies in a way. If you would be in a room with him and he hired you in order to give him culture advice so that he can protect his company from deviating from what he believes is admirable values for his company, what would you tell him in this regard?
I mean, I'm all for firing people that are not in line with your culture. Okay. I am 100%. The thing is that people, first of all, if people are not in line with the culture that you want to have and they stay, they're not going to be happy anyway. They've got a job, yay, you can get a job somewhere else, right? But they're not going to be happy. And then they're just stuck. They feel stuck. Okay, so that's not useful for them. And then the worst part is, though, that they're going to make life miserable for the people that actually do want to build the culture, and they will negatively affect that culture. Mm-hmm. Okay, so get rid of the people that are not in line with what you want to achieve. Now, the whole thing of values and everything else, I mean, ultimately, that's still going to be based on behaviors, right? So again, this is where the whole word gamification thing comes in. And so we even created an app, a specific behavior gamification app that helps very simply and easily gamify the behaviors that are in line with specific values that you want to do. Why? Because it's not that easy to remember. For example, see, it's very easy to catch someone when they have made a mistake, even a small mistake. Okay, and you can even maybe not reprimand them, but show them how they're wrong, right? Or make a comment even. Okay, but if somebody does a small thing that's good, it's taken for granted. So sometimes what happens, well, actually most of the time, what happens is that people will end up creating these environments where the primary feedback is only the bad things. And the good things, even unless it's a great big good thing, is just taken for granted. Mm-hmm. But what if you actually forced yourself to give feedback every day? Simple feedback that takes like 20 seconds. Okay? And that means you actually have to find one behavior in line, at least one behavior in line with the values, or even reverse engineer behaviors that would help you achieve KPIs. Okay, and you find at least it could be a negative one, but it can also be a positive one where you actually force yourself to find at least one positive thing that somebody did, or negative. Okay, but at least give feedback on a regular basis. That means that people would essentially notice and be rewarded for the little things that they do. But if they do something that's going to be counterproductive to a value or a behavior that'll achieve a KPI, they're getting small feedback that they can correct so that they can do that. And that's another thing is any type of gamification, you have to have resurrection.
Can you elaborate what you mean by that?
Okay, like for example, let's say you're playing a shooter game. Bam, bam. Right? Now you turn right. Boom! You die. Oh, okay?
Yeah.
So you die if you turn right. So now you have new experience. Yeah. So now when you are resurrected, now instead of turning right, you turn left. And you can make it to the next level, right? Because you have new experience. Same thing with work gamification, right? So you know that by doing this behavior, well, okay, that's going to get you a negative emoji, for example, right? It's not the right one, okay? But if you have a period, so let's say, for example, you can call them epics, or and each one is going to be, let's say, 1 week long. So every week, clean slate, start over. That way, the people that are always ahead can't stay ahead, and it can't be that they're so difficult to catch up to.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, you every week you have an opportunity to use your experience to get ahead.
I love this. Also, we've spoken a lot about like forgiveness and turning the page, and I feel like it's sometimes not performing well in the past doesn't mean that you can't perform well in the future. I think that's a belief system that every employee or CEO should have.
Absolutely, and the app we built is called Squadly. Squadly, like with an I, L-I, not a L-Y.
I will put that in the show notes. Due to time reasons, let's move to the last section of the interview.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm
finally
ready.
Get this over with. As you know, like part of the company that I'm building revolves around the idea of resurrecting great people from the past in order to enable conversation that allow us to learn in new ways. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions in regards to this. It's a relatively new segment, so some of these questions suck. We're going to test them more in the future. What is a favorite quote you like to live by?
Wow.
Or maybe in a better way, like if you would get a tattoo from a quote in a cheesy way.
Well, okay. So there's one quote from Einstein. Great spirits are always meet violent opposition from mediocre minds. That's always been that's always been the justification for continuing with my crazy ass ideas.
Follow-up question for this. I feel like there's some form of naivety in the mindset of a visionary, at least it was for me, that when you have great ideas and when you try to make the world a better place and when you aim for big things, that people cheer you on from the side. What was like for you something unexpected negatively that happened after you got your shit together? Does that question make any sense?
It does. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Because I feel you can judge a person not only by the friends he had, but also by the enemies he made over his life in a way. Like, what is something you feel people should know in regards to what happens after you become successful or become a unique original?
Ex-girlfriends start to post on your social media.
Oh, jeez. That doesn't sound like fun.
And you got, there's a few things that are out there, but it's and then you get a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are sincere and really have something, but then there's also a lot of people that just try to take advantage of you, and I'm still naive, and I've still been taken advantage of, so it happens.
If you could resurrect 3 people from history to join your board of directors, who would you resurrect?
Socrates.
Yeah.
He's like, because there's always got to be a reason, okay? A foundation, root cause, right? I mean, that's the guy. That's the root cause guy.
I love it.
Okay, and Socrates would definitely be one.
What will you ask him before we go to the other 2?
What would I ask him? I don't know what I'd ask him. I mean, he's just there to figure shit out, right? I mean, I don't need to ask him anything. I just need him to be there when shit happens so that we can solve problems.
I love it. I hope he brings his daemonian with him because he associates him to all his wisdom. Who are the other 2 people?
Wow, let's see. That's tough. Let's see. Who else? Gosh, I don't know. I guess what's her name? Parks. She was a black lady.
Rosa Parks?
Rosa
Parks.
Yes, Rosa Parks.
The
Rosa
girl,
Parks.
The girl who didn't get up?
Yeah. She was. That girl has like some cajones, man. You know?
Yeah.
That's the kind of person you want. That's leadership. I mean,
Yeah.
that definitely.
The ability to say no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to stand up for what you believe in, make shit happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, and that was, that's courage. I would definitely, she'd probably be my CEO. I'm telling you, she would be awesome.
Yeah. Who's the last one?
Wow.
After there's 2 more questions, then you're out there.
Yeah. 2 more questions. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Well, yeah. I'd want to get someone. There's just too many. Yeah, and of course, they'd all have to speak English eventually, right? So.
Well, we can play with AI, so they would speak their own languages, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. Wow. Yeah. I don't know. The third one. That's tough. It's just a lot of people to think about. You could say some. I guess I'd look for people who had an analytical mind, maybe but there's a lot of people that have been there, you could there's just a lot of I don't know, that's the third one is difficult. The third one is difficult. I don't know who I pick.
It can remain an open spot. Okay. Let's move to the last question. It holds a very special meaning to me because my entire motivation for building eternity was my father got very sick a couple of years ago, and I noticed that humanity doesn't really have a system right now to preserve characters. And my way of using the technology that you have already discovered for yourself was to preserve the stories and wisdom of individuals for future generations, particularly for my own reasons for my future son, even though I'm far away from that particular standpoint. If you could be immortalized and we imagine your funeral maybe, and you have one message to your loved ones, one message for future generations, and maybe one warning for future generations as well, what would this particular time capsule of yours would look like? You can take your time and digest them one at a time, if that would be okay.
I mean, I guess so. Here's the thing, right? I mean, there is a fine line between technology to support people and technology to take over people, right? I mean, right now there's a lot of technology that essentially engulfs people's mind. Okay, so this metaverse that we're creating, for example, the point is not for people to stay in the metaverse. It's not, so we can bombard them with advertising and everything else. It's not, it's to help people apply things in the real world, to be better people. It is a tool. And I guess the warning / advice is that technology should be a tool to improve your humanity rather to essentially be taken over by the technology. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense, actually. A lot of sense. And from the time capsule perspective, you mentioned earlier in the podcast and a beautiful notion that your life, you found a turning point when you ask yourself the question, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah.
If I would ask you the same question in the context that I would give you, what would be your last answer before?
I want to be remembered as a person who has made an impact, a positive impact, on people's ability to be the best that they can be.
Beautiful notion. And I've learned so much from you. Thank you so much for taking the time in your busy schedule to...
Thank you. I got a question for you, though.
Yes, of course.
How do you get your teeth so white? I mean, what is that?
Thank you so much. That's a topic for a new episode. How can we help you? I think a lot of people listen to this podcast, and I started to figure out that a normal click it's a human being who watches. A lot of people are change makers in the world. What is something we as a community can do to help you to realize your audacious dreams and projects and help you move forward with life? Anything?
Well, okay. Well, I guess in this case, if there is anybody that wants to be involved in anything that I'm doing, okay, I'd love to have them be part of our community and give ideas and I mean, there's so many different levels where people could help or I mean, people could, but I guess you can contact me at arthurc@carmazzi.net. Okay, if somebody wants to be a part of anything that we've discussed here, whether you want to be a licensed directive communication psychology trainer consultant, or whether you want to be involved in the metaverse, or you want to have your own AI, or you want to advice on girls, probably not a good thing now that I'm married. But anyway, you've got all these different, whatever. I'm open. I'm easy. Okay. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Arthur Carmazzi. You want to take the Colored Brain test, and then you get on our mailing list. You can go to coloredbrain.com. That way you can find your ambiguity relief process. And the good thing about the system is it connects everybody. So you can see all the people that are in your team or your group, your family or whatever, and they can and able to help them to see who's in their danger zone, and you click on little things, how to be more productive with them, how to have a better relationship with them, and depending on what you want to do.
I'll put everything in the show notes. It was an honor to have you on the show today. Probably would take me a month to digest all of it. For everybody who invested 2 hours in order to learn about this man's story, I hope it was a worthwhile investment. For me personally, it was. See you guys in the next episode.
All right. Bye.